Hey everyone, it's Lisa from the Rhinestone world. So in this video, I'm going to be brushing in and pressing this giant heart firework, perfect for the 4th of July, and I'm pressing onto this really cute starred little baseball ringer tee. So if you'd like to know how you can make this design and how you can get this design for 80% off, go ahead and keep watching. Okay, so before we get started with brushing in rhinestones, I wanted to open this design in Silhouette Studio to show you, one, how this file will look like if you purchase it, and two, I want to show you a couple tricks to make sure you're brushing in the right colors, but you're also maximizing your time with this and making your computer run as quickly as possible. So check it out, I have my design right here. So when you first get your design, everything's going to be grouped together. We separate your colors for you, and then we also give you the original so you can see it. Now, one thing to remember is these yellow boxes need to stay there, and we don't want to resize anything. This is all sized correctly, so you can see this is around 43 inches wide. So let's go ahead, I'm going to right click and let's ungroup. Now what's happening is it is ungrouping everything. So every individual rhinestone in this design will be its own object. Now that poses a little bit of a problem in Silhouette Studio because a lot of objects mean a bigger file type and it slows down your software. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very quickly click off of here, and we are going to go over and delete this first heart over here. So just keep in mind, while we look at the heart over here, we'll see that this middle template is for our white or crystal stones, and I can see that because I matched up the top of the heart right here. So just remember, when you cut your templates, if we have the top part's white, the bottom part is red, okay? So let's go ahead and I'm going to kind of scroll over, and I don't know if you've noticed while I'm talking, but my computer is running at a little bit of a delay, and so part of that is because I have a bunch of items in here. So I'm going to delete things to make it easier. So I clicked and dragged my mouse. Let's press delete. And so it's going to get rid of all of those extra rhinestones. So just so you know, I've already pressed delete and I'm waiting for that one. So now we still have these individual rhinestones here. They're just sitting on top of the template. What I am going to do is I'm going to simplify this so much that I only have 3 items in here. My squares with the rhinestone sections punched out of it. So let's go ahead, I'm going to take my mouse and drag it over this template. So I have all my rhinestones and the square together. So what I have right now is I have my square with circles sitting on top of it. I want to tell the software, hey, combine this into one big shape. So I am going to take it and flatten it by making it a compound path. Making a compound path basically means that all of these lines are working together to make one big shape. So let's go ahead and I'm going to right click. I'm going to make compound path, and so now you can see by looking at the background I have a square with holes in it. So let's go ahead and complete the process for these last 2. Let's go ahead and grab this little guy and just make sure you're not getting the other square, and then we'll right click, make compound path, and then the last one, bring it over, make sure I don't get that square. Right click, make compound path. So now I have my 3 templates set. You can see my software is moving a little bit faster. You can see I did go a little crazy. So right here, I kind of swapped them. So this is my blue, this is my red, and this is my white. So all I have to do is get them set up to cut on my Magic Flock, and I will be ready to brush them in. So I'm gonna go ahead, cut these, and then we will brush in our rhinestones and get ready to press. So I have cut out my templates, and I have them stored on the backing of hot fix tape just to keep them safe. So I have 3 templates. They're all fairly large. They're all just a little bit shy of a foot wide as far as the template goes. So let's go ahead and start off with our first color. I'm going to put this on my workstation. Now my workstation is just a chalkboard. This is actually a $7.99 chalkboard from Hobby Lobby. Really affordable. I, as many of you probably do too, used a coupon, so I think it was closer to $5. You don't even need a chalkboard per se to work with rhinestones. The only thing that you necessarily need is a flat surface. So a lot of times people use chalkboards. A lot of my friends like to use cookie sheets, dry erase boards. I actually used to use a dry erase board for a long time here, and then I switched over to the chalkboard just because I liked the dark color with it. I thought it was a lot easier to work with, in my opinion. And so what I'm doing is I'm just brushing gentle circles over my design. Basically, the way that this works is that this Magic Flock material is raised and rhinestones are slightly pointed. So what you do is you get a lot of rhinestones and they roll over the template. And if the stones are upside down, the other rhinestones will kind of bump them and bump it out of the spot. And then if they are correct, if they are flat, then they just sit right in there. So what I did just now is I was missing a couple rhinestones. It's a little bit hard for you to see because I am using dark stones on a dark, workstation. But basically you bring another little pile, let the, movement of the stones work for you, and then you're all set there. So this is where we're going to start layering our colors. I'm going to move my rhinestones to the side to get it out of the way of my tape. So I'm going to kind of go over here. And then I'm actually going to I'm going to come down and bring my face closer to the rhinestones to make sure I don't have any stragglers that are kind of like sitting on top, because then that'll make it difficult to do the layering of our rhinestones. So now my design is all brushed in. I'm going to take my piece of tape and I'm going to cut my tape down. Now you'll notice that my tape is a little bit larger than my design. That is intentional. So what we're doing is we're cutting our piece of tape and we're using this extra part as an anchor or like a hinge so we can layer our colors for that. So let me go ahead and peel the tape up. Be careful not to let the tape kind of fold over on itself. All right, so there are multiple ways to do this. The important part is that you have tape extra on the side. So what I like to do is to make sure I have the most on the side, I smooth one side really close to my design. And then the most important thing when you drop your tape is just do it quickly. You don't want your tape to kind of touch it and then move, because then some of your stones will touch the tape, but they won't all touch the tape, and you have to start over because some of them will touch it and they'll be misaligned and everyone's upset. So let's just go right here. I'm just smoothing this down. Kind of go from there. And so now we just need to clean up our stones. I like to clean up my stones while my tape is down like this. So I'm just going to this is my favorite trick. I just shake my board a little bit to loosen them up away from the edges. And then just be careful, smooth the edges of your tape because you could get stones underneath it like I just did. All right, so let's go right here. And then I'm going to grab my magic scoop, start cleaning up my rhinestones. And so this is really important to do. You want to be really diligent about cleaning up your colors because you don't want to mix your colors. If you notice, while I'm brushing, a couple of my colors do have different stone colors in them because I was not careful. So you want to avoid that. Now, of course, if you do mix a few into your stones, it's not the end of the world, as you can see with what I'm doing, but it does make it at the very least, a little inconvenient. So just be diligent about it. And I'm going to show you one more thing to look for when you're cleaning up your stones to make sure you don't mix them, which is what I did. All right, so now we have this. We have a little funnel in here. So now I can bring my little container, take that cork out, and it all comes in. Now, one thing to do, make sure you kind of shake this because sometimes rhinestones are actually like in the corners in here. And you might not notice that, and then they'll end up in the next color of rhinestones that you do. So not the best, but it works out. All right, so now we have our first color. Let's lift this up. And then see this rhinestone, it didn't come up with it. That's not a big deal. Just drop your tape back down if a rhinestone doesn't come up and smooth where it is, and then you're all set to go. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to take this and lift it up, but we are not going to take it completely off of our chalkboard. We're going to kind of leave it to the side there, get this extra space, because this is going to stay in the same spot and all of our colors are going to line up in the same spot, which will make it, that's how we layer it. All right, so now I'm going to do my next color, Now this one is my red, and I remember that because I remember the bottom part was red in my heart. So let's go right here. Some people will take their templates as well, and what they'll do is they'll just write the color on the corner here. It's not going to affect your brushing. It's not going to do any damage, so that's a great option as well if you want to do that. All right, so again, this is red. So don't forget, as I was showing you in the software, all of the boxes are the same size, and that's on purpose. So what we're doing is we're lining up our design by the box so that in certain areas your rhinestones will show, and that's how we kind of layer our rhinestones to make sure they're not overlapping. So you can see right here, I don't see any black areas. Black areas is where rhinestones are on the template below it, so we're good. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our red rhinestones now. So if I didn't mention before, don't forget the trick with brushing in your rhinestones easily is put way more than you think you need, because it's that movement or friction that I was talking about earlier with the other stones that helps them brush in easily. So I'm going to do a whole bunch, and I'm using my monster brush to kind of brush them in. So I'm just going to go quickly to, start it off, and then we'll go back and fix little sections that may be missing stones. So check this out, there's an extra crystal in here. No big deal. Just pick it out and move on with my life. So I try to, when I find stones that I've accidentally mixed in here, I try to pick them out as I go, so you can see they're in here. But as you can see from me, I make mistakes all the time. It's okay, it's just a learning process, and we just have to move on from there. Okay, so we're almost done. I have an extra crystal rhinestone here, and then I have a couple places where rhinestones are missing, right here, and right here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to grab little piles, drop that on top of there, drop that on top of there, and a little pile over here, and one more. Now for something like this, I'm going to switch over and use my red rhinestone brush right here. I think for little areas like that, I have a little bit more control. I know it's a highly debated topic here in the office, like which brush is better. So the guys love the monster brush. I love the little red rhinestone brush. But I do know the rhinestone brush is helpful when you're doing larger designs like this. So that's why I have been using it. But it's all a preference thing. So when you're doing this, now that I have the majority of the stones in there, I'm just going to hold my brush flat and go like this. Get these out of the way, and we'll smooth that over, and they'll be ready to drop our tape for this one. All right, so my rhinestones are brushed in. I've moved them out of the way. I'm just doing a quick look to make sure there aren't any stuck on top. A lot of times if rhinestones are on top, they're kind of in between two stones on here. But it looks pretty good to me. So let's go ahead, take our tape, and I'm gonna kind of keep it as tight as I can without ripping it off, just to make it easier to bring it down. So let's go ahead, bring this color down. There we go. So we've stacked 2 colors so far. Let's go ahead, smooth that out. All right, I'm gonna smooth all my corners because I like to clean my rhinestones while the tape is on top. Of course, you do not have to do that. You can lift your tape up, clean it, whatever. Like, it's really not important, whichever way you do it. All right, so there is my second color all cleaned up. Let's go ahead, drop that in there. All right, so let's go ahead, and I always make sure to close my containers right after because I am clumsy. All right, so now we're going to do the white, or the stone color is crystal for this. So I am putting this on a white shirt. So with the normal crystal stones on a white shirt, they show up fine, but I like it to be extra sparkly. So let me show you this little chart that I have here. So right here, I have crystal AB, which is the normal crystal that I typically use. But right here, this is crystal AB, this middle one. So the crystal AB stones have a little bit more of a coating on them, so they reflect the light a little bit better, and I think that they're going to show up really nicely on here. So we have those right here in comparison to these stones. So it's probably hard to see on the camera, but just a little bit more sparklier, because I love my sparkles. So let's go ahead and lift this up. And you can see, you know, they're kind of, some of them are not coming up. Not a big deal. Just smooth the tape and lift it right back up. So let's go ahead, go from here. I'm just moving this out of the way. All right, so now we're ready for our next template and our next color. So here's our last one. Top one is white. Again, you can write the color name on there. I mean, a lot of people do that. And I mean, it's pretty useful. I would do it. And so with something like this, let's go ahead and line up our squares and just keeping paying special attention to the templates below it, making sure you don't see any holes through it, anything like that, because you know, you never know how your cutter is. Like maybe your cutter shifted just a tiny bit so your boxes don't line up perfectly. You know, look at the corners, but also look at the holes too, because you know, maybe there was a slight issue. You never know. All right, so let's do our crystal AB. I've been all about using crystal AB stones lately because I'm fancy. All right, so let's do our circles. Don't forget, always put way more stones than you think you need. And when you're first starting out specifically too, like don't focus intently on like one specific stone. Just work on brushing in general, and then, you know, you can go back and fine tune from there. I'm just picking out a cobalt stone that I found in here. And I have some cobalt stones in here because they were stuck in the side of my scoop and I didn't know about it, that I was telling you about earlier. All right, so all my stones are brushed in. I did use some tweezers to fix them at the end. So I'm just doing a quick browse to make sure there aren't any sitting on top or caught in between stones. But we are looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and move these over just a little bit more. And now it's time for our tape. So again, I'm holding it nice and tight. So check that out. These are 3 colors layered. The AB crystal stones are looking really nice too. I like the contrast of it with the 2 just like flat colors, those matte colors. I think it looks really good. All right, so let's go ahead, lift this up. And so, especially because we've been putting down multiple colors, sometimes you do have to smooth it a little bit more to get your colors up. Not a big deal. It doesn't mean it's bad in any way. It's just you have a lot of rhinestones really close together, so like them lifting up to touch the tape sometimes doesn't go as easily as your first color, of course. So I'm going to take my brush and kind of use the side of it to smooth these. These are especially difficult because the stones are packed so tightly with each other. You can see, not a big deal. And then we just have a couple stragglers over here. All right, so now I can lift this totally up. We have that over here. And I want to point something out that I just noticed. Right here, you may see that a backing of a rhinestone is a lot lighter. That happens every now and then. Sometimes you might get 1 or 2 where the glue is kind of not super great on that rhinestone. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick that stone out and replace it with another one. You want to inspect the back of your stones, make sure you have that nice gray look. And then we'll just go ahead, take our tape, or the backing to our tape, I mean to say, and we'll just drop that right on top. We'll smooth that, and I'm actually going to trim off this excess because I can use this for some other stuff later. All right, so here is our rhinestone design. Just smooth that down. So now I'm ready to go over to my heat press and press this shirt. All right, so I'm over here at my heat press. I am working on a 15 by 15 heat press. This is the Stahl's Max Press. I enjoy this size for pressing shirts, personal preference. And I have this really cute little star ringer tee or baseball tee. I got this online. This is Alternative brand or Alternative Earth. I purchased it from Alpha Broder. There are lots of different places that you can get it, but that is where I got my shirt. So let's go ahead and bring this down. So I'm going to do a quick pre-press to get rid of moisture and wrinkles, especially we are in Florida, so it is humid everywhere. All right, so we have this set, we have our pre-press. So let's go ahead and line up our design. I'm going to take it off the paper. All right, so let's go ahead, bring this over here. So I am centering it off of the collar, not the tag. Tag is almost always wrong. And then these little armpit seams are typically the center of the chest. So I'm kind of lining it up off of that as well. The good thing about this design is it is so big that you kind of just slap it in the middle and go. It's not like it can be, completely off because it takes up so much space anyway. So we have our rhinestones on here. My heat press is set to 335 degrees, and I'm going to do medium to firm pressure, probably closer to firm because I like to be extra safe. So we're going to press this for 15 seconds. All right, our press is done. Now with thinner shirts like this, I separate it right away because the glue from the rhinestones can kind of melt. You don't want it to glue to the back of your shirt. Now, if you don't want to separate your shirt, you can put, a cover sheet, a pressing pillow, anything like that in between the layers of your shirt. But for me, I'd rather just stick my hand in there than have to thread something in there. All right, so we can go ahead and peel up this tape. Now, this tape is reusable. The acrylic hot fix tape, basically, if it still picks up rhinestones, you can still use it. So now we have our super cute 4th of July Firework ringer tee. All right, so that is our cute heart firework shirt. So this is using cobalt stones, red stones, and 80 crystal to get that extra sparkle with it. So if you like this design, you can purchase it at 80% off. Find the link in the description and use this code to get 80% off of this design. So if you would like to see more tutorials with the silhouette cameo or brushing in rhinestones, go ahead and click here. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up and to subscribe.